Welcome to Straight Out of Savannah, Talking with Tammi, a podcast that showcases people you may not know who are choosing to use their gifts to inspire and move the planet.
Are you in a spiritual awakening? Yeah, I'm talking to you right now. You've been stuck in religion for all of your life, and all of a sudden now you realize that God is so much bigger than what you were taught. And now your gifts are opening up and you start feeling like you're losing your mind, possibly. If that's you, reach out to me and let's do a session. Matter of fact, I do mentoring for people leaving religion, entering spirituality. And especially if you are in a spiritual awakening, your gifts are opening, you don't understand what's happening, reach out to me. Send me a message right here on this platform. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. I am super excited. My guest, Amy Brookes, is here, and she is going to tell you who she is and what it is that she does and what she can do for you. So, Amy, take it away.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for reaching out and for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. My name is Amy Brookes, as you said. I am, so Savannah, Georgia, I'm assuming is where Straight Out of Savannah is.
Yes.
I'm Canadian, so I'm like way up here in the north. I'm an East Coast Canadian, but I'm currently living in Ontario. You would probably know the closest city as being Toronto. So that's kind of where I am in the world.
Yes.
But I work internationally. So I am a psychic medium. That's my main role. And I work totally virtually. So it started off, I started doing this definitely before the lockdowns and the pandemic and all that stuff. It started happening for me in 2019. And at that point, I was just working really behind the scenes. I had this fear of being seen. So I would only do readings by paper and pen or messenger email. Okay. Which, let me tell you, is way harder than talking to somebody face to face. But that's how I started. So I could work with anybody anywhere. And then I started, the world shut down. So I moved totally online, and I stuck with it because I will say the majority of my clients are not local to me. So I think there's something really beautiful about being, in two very different places and still connecting and energetically bonding in a way that maybe you wouldn't expect. But anyways, we can get into that later. But I'm a psychic medium. I've been working professionally for coming up on 5 years now. I'm already also an intuitive mentor. I'm a podcast host. I am a past life reader. I'm a higher self reader. I offer inner child healing. I am a published author. I basically am a jack of all trades. And that I love that because I've tried to keep myself in one lane for so long, and I've realized that I can't stay in a lane. I don't need to pick one. I can be all the things. And so that's what I'm trying to be, and show other people that they can be that too, if it aligns with them. If that's
Yeah. Oh, that's so perfect. That is so perfect, because that is exactly what I just had a conversation with somebody else about.
Not
because
surprised.
I said all these coaches want you to niche down and just do one thing or focus here and that, and I'm like, I cannot do it. I am a lot of things, I can't even do it. It's not in my design to do that. And so let's talk about how you found out that you were a psychic medium.
Okay. So in hindsight, I can see that I've always been a psychic medium. Okay. But connection to spirit is not very, very rarely is it like we think, or what we think, what we see in kind of media or Hollywood films and things.
Yes.
It's so subtle. Like, it's not like Ghost Whisperer. It's really not like that very often. It's much more subtle, and it's like energetic impressions of things you receive. So I spent my whole life thinking I was a very highly imaginative person. I really did. And I probably still am, you know, as I do feel our imagination is a place that spirit plants, you know, images and
Well,
thoughts and
it's our
feelings and
playground.
ideas. It's the channel. Like that's where things come in very often. But the real like moment for me of awareness was, well, things started to happen, I'd say like 2016, had my last child. I've always been highly tuned in during pregnancy. So I have 3 children, dreamt of them, knew what their genders were going to be. Their names came to me in dreams. So like I've always been tapped in. It went kind of over the top during pregnancy. And then in early 2018, so in January of 2018, my father, who had just celebrated his 60th birthday a few months before, went in for like a routine day surgery. And he was fine coming out in recovery, but soon after developed, you know, unforeseen complications. And after 6 days of these complications, he passed away.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, he was, you know, my mom found him. He was passed away. He was gone, and then alerted the nurses and doctors, and they were able to get his heart beating again, put him on life support. And they told us that he would not like live for the day, like that would be the last day he'd be living. And so I don't live back at home anymore. I live in another province. I live 1,500 kilometers away. And you know, I could have flown, but everybody in the room was like, there's no time, you're just not going to make it. I think it's best that you say goodbye now while you have an opportunity. So I did this over the phone. And nothing can prepare you for a moment when you have to say goodbye to a parent over the phone.
Yeah.
But I did. And in this moment of doing so, I kept getting all these impressions of things. So I felt my father clairsentiently. So that means clear sensing. So it's like I just felt him and I knew he was with me and he was showing me images. So when you see images in your mind, it's called clairvoyance. It's what most people are familiar with when we talk about the clairs.
Right.
You know, you see, hear in your
All they know.
imagination.
That's
Right.
all they
That's most people know is
You're a
clairvoyance.
clairvoyant. That's what they
Yeah, right. And everybody will say that's what a psychic is, but there's way more to it than that, and way more ways that spirit will communicate with us. But you know, he started showing me images of the room that I couldn't have had. I didn't have any knowledge of. The door number, the nurse's name on the whiteboard, you know, who was in the room, what they were wearing, the doctor's name, like all of this information came through to me, and I thought, what is happening? Right? Like it was not my own memory, and it wasn't something that was in my environment. So it's coming from elsewhere, and it felt like it was from him. So, you know, in this moment, as I was saying goodbye, he was giving me all these impressions and feelings. And he told me that, you know, he didn't want to go, but that it was his time and he did have to go. And we all have a time. I mean,
wow.
none of us know when it's going to be, as we shouldn't know when that's going to be, but it was his time. So he couldn't fight it. But, you know, his personality, his spirit was a fighter. So he was like, you know, they're going to say I'm going to go today, but I'm not going until tomorrow. And that's, you know, that's part of my personality. That's me fighting for you, right? Being true to myself. But you know, I have to go. And so this impression obviously stuck with me. It felt real. There was no denying it. I did mention it to a few people in the room and I was like, by the way, can you confirm, is this the door number? Is this the nurse's number? Yes, 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 yes. But everybody's kind of like in an out of body experience because of the trauma that's happening. So, you know, we're aware of it, but we don't really connect it anymore.
Right.
You know, yes, the next day he passed. And within the following months of that, I definitely felt like I was awakening to something that had been buried within me or that I forgot about. So I just started, the main thing he did for me was I found dimes everywhere, which is a common spirit sign, right? So this little thing behind me, you see like a little yellow Volkswagen bus, that's a piggy bank that's absolutely full to the brim with dimes that I found from my dad. And, you know, people will often say, how do I know what is like, how do I know that dime is actually from my dad or my mom or my grandma? It's a feeling that comes over you, like a knowing, right? Like you can't make up a spirit sign. You could see a blue jay every day and it evokes nothing for you. But for somebody else, it evokes something and they immediately think of someone in spirit. That's how you know that it's from them. And so I knew that this was from my dad, and I was finding them in really weird places. Like, for instance, one, I was walking out on Lake Erie, which is one of the Great Lakes here. And it was frozen for like kilometers. This was middle of the winter. And we walked like a kilometer out on the lake. And I had my dad's boots on because, by the way, my mother gave me his boots, his Blundstones that he babied. It was like the first time he like treated himself and bought something expensive. And she's like, I think you should have these. And I thought, well, they're not going to fit me. My feet aren't the same size as my father's. But guess what? It's like a Cinderella moment. They fit my feet and they didn't fit anybody else. I swear to God, I still wear them. So anyways, I have his boots on. I walk out into the lake. I go out on another adventure wearing your shoes, walking in your footsteps, Dad. I look down at my feet and there's literally a heart shape in the ice and a dime next to it. You can't make it up. I have a photo of it. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, like, wow, like this is really unbelievable. I always say you can't make this bleep up. And that's how spirit can be. Like, you just can't make it up. At one point you're going to have to go, I think there's something to this. Right. But yeah, that was kind of how I really awakened to it. And about a year after that, of having all these crazy experiences, I started having moments where I'd be talking to someone, like a friend, and I'd feel like I had their loved one with me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so I don't think this is about just my dad. Like, I think I can do this with other people. And I think they know I'm ready. So they're starting to come to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So a few months later, I kind of, came out of the spiritual closet, so to speak. And I always kind of thought of it as an impulsive move, because I had the realization that I was a medium probably in like January, and I launched my business March 4th of the same year, and came out as a medium. It was that quick.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really quick, but it was so undeniable. It was so undeniable. I knew it was something for me, and I knew it excited me and it brought me joy. And so I know that those are all signposts from your soul to follow. If something's exciting and makes you feel curious, or, brings joy, and it also has the capacity to bring other people joy, it's definitely something for you, and you should follow it as far as you could or should. And can. And so that's really how I got into it. It was just a year of experiencing the wonders of the universe, and one day going, okay, I'm going to do something about it. And
so
yeah.
How did your family and friends react to you coming out of the spiritual closet?
It's funny because, my husband is very, let's say, like left-brained. He was in the military for 25 years. He's very logic-based. He works in IT, like he's not really down the spiritual path, so to speak, as like I am. But he was like, okay, cool. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Funny enough, my family knew, because they knew of this experience in the hospital room. They knew of other things that had happened over the years that I had shared with them. And so they knew I was tapped in that way, in some way. So they weren't surprised. When I kind of came out on social media, the people that I grew up with, that when I went to high school with, the mom friends, all of that kind of stuff, they were like, makes sense. That makes sense. So nobody was really surprised, even though I didn't really think of myself as outwardly being spiritual. I guess everybody could feel that from me and knew it. So they're like, yeah, that makes sense. It's not surprising at all. Everybody was cool with it. Yeah.
So were you raised like in a religious type of? Not
really.
Or let's say even spiritual?
No, nobody ever talked about anything spiritual.
Wow.
No, never, which is actually a story. There's like a theme I've noticed, and something that I shared on my own solo podcast is like this theme of all these weird things happening in my life, but nobody ever talking about it. So the reason that I like to do these interviews and, go on my own podcast is to talk about the things that nobody talks about.
Exactly.
I actually had a near-death experience when I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And nobody talked about it, which is weird, right?
Nobody talked about it.
Nobody. I mean, we knew it happened, but like, I don't really remember sharing about my experience of like what happened though. until many years later with friends or, with a boyfriend or something like that. And everybody always like, okay, Amy, okay. Like I believe that you believe that happened. But no, like it wasn't a conversation. My parents weren't overly spiritual. My dad was actually a major skeptic, thought I was absolutely Looney Tunes anytime I wanted to talk about mediumship or psychics. So I feel like it's this big cosmic kind of hilarious moment that he is the one that has awakened me to my gifts.
Yeah.
I remember soon after, I'm like, who's laughing now? Like, here you
I was
are
thinking
helping
that.
guide
I was
me.
like, wow, how did that go? Right? That's so crazy.
Yeah. Like sometimes people will book a reading and go, I don't know if my loved one's going to come through because I don't know. Like, I think they definitely wouldn't have believed. Or maybe there was some sort of belief system that, kept them feeling like it was wrong or they were fearful of it. And I'll pick up on that from a spirit person. Like they may go, you know what, in life, I would have thought this was ridiculous, but it doesn't stop them from communicating with me now. Right. So I feel like regardless of our belief system, I feel like we all have the ability to communicate with our loved ones
Oh,
afterwards.
that is really good. That is really
Mm-hmm.
good. So when people come to you and they are expressing interest in, doing this type of work or, broadening their intuition or connecting and that kind of stuff, what type of things do you do in order to work with them? Or really, what do you say to them?
So it's funny because most people will just like, there's quite a bit of information on my website or in the social media, content and posts and stories and videos and all that I do. So it's actually not that common for somebody to like email me or DM me and say, I'm interested in a reading. Can you tell me more? Because I feel like there's just so much information on my website that they have a good idea. Like there's videos on there where I tell you exactly what to expect and you can read about other people's experiences. So most people are just like kind of ready to dive in based on what they know. But what would
So
I
you don't have to do
say?
even a lot of prep work with people that come to you.
No, I actually have made it so I've kind of set my intention with the universe or with spirit that I don't want to. I don't want to do legwork. I want this to happen organically. I want the connections to feel like I think that's the ultimate in trust and surrender. And I think that's what we're here to learn. Like spirit has taught me that we as people are here to learn how to manipulate energy and master energy, right? Because in the spirit
Yes.
world, the spirit world will show me, I want to be here, I'm there. I want to be there, I'm there. I just have to think about it. And I think that we as like souls and spirits ourselves remember that we have the ability to do that. And then we come here and we're like, like, why is it not happening fast enough? But that's the challenge. That's why we're here. But, if you think about everything that's ever been, everything that is, and everything that will ever be is because somebody thought it and then did it. So I always think to myself, then why can't I?
like
Why not? Why not? Like,
that.
somebody else is going to do it if I don't do it, right?
Yes.
You can do it. There's no hierarchy of souls. There's no hierarchy of spirits. Think about anytime you have like a bright idea or you're inspired. It's like this, think of like the stream of collective consciousness or energy above you. It's coming to you for a reason. You thought of it or were inspired by it for a reason, and it's yours for the taking if you grab on. If you don't, it's going to go to somebody else, right? So it's like, if you don't write this song, somebody else is going to write that song. If you don't write this book, somebody else is. So I feel like doing this work has made me like more fearless and more confident, which is something I never was before I started doing this work. I was the opposite of that. The opposite. And I've never been afraid of the spirit world. Some people will say that, like, so you just did this, you just launched this business and did it. Weren't you afraid of the spirit world? No, they're lovely folk. I love the spirit world. It's the people that find me that I was worried about because I am a recovering people pleaser and I overgive. And I knew that I would struggle like with certain personalities or maybe, just energy doesn't jive sometimes, right? And actually energy isn't personal. It just is. Right.
Yes.
And so I wanted to protect myself from potential negative situations or situations that might make me feel less confident about myself as a reader and a healer. And so I set the intention when I launched my business. I'm not doing any legwork. I will show up and I will do the stuff, but I'm not soliciting. I'm not telling people to book with me. I'm not advertising. People will find me because they're meant to find me, and that's the way it's
Yes.
going to be. And
Yes.
so that's how I operate. And I always say in divine timing, in divine timing. It might not be right now. It might be another time. It might not be me. It might be another medium. There's really no place for ego in this work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That, yes. So
Mhm.
what kind of work were you doing before you started doing this, before you stepped out of the spiritual closet?
So my background, education wise, is I have a degree in psychology. And so that makes sense, right? It was what I was going to, work in a professional setting as a therapist. And then, a kid happened, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to play again. And then another kid happened, and I thought, okay, I'm going to put this on hold. Then the third kid happened. And, actually I applied last year to do my master's in psychology. And I was denied because my GPA was 1 point off of what it needed to be. Because your master's, I mean, it's really competitive. Like you have to be like really, really good, right? And this was like 20 years ago, I graduated from university, right? So I was like, oh, and that would have really, really bothered me a couple of years ago. I would have personalized that and felt like absolute garbage. But I had this weird, I knew it was like a lesson from spirit. And I thought, okay, so if rejection is redirection, what am I being redirected towards and why? Because I know I'm a good fit for that work, and I know I could help people that way. Why would spirit or the universe deny me to do that? And I'm somebody that needs to process out loud. So I went on a live on Instagram and shared that information with other people, which, by the way, I wouldn't have done before because I would have harbored shame around it. And I just talked about it. And as I was talking about it, I had this moment of clarity, like, oh, I know what this is about. Because if I was put into that system, which, by the way, it is a system, and there are rules and regulations, and there's a lot of red tape, and there's not a lot of freedom
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes.
And why would spirit put me in a situation that might box me in when I can do not the same work, obviously, right? But similar type stuff without any constraints, and be able to just do whatever the heck I want within reason, and with it, obviously, with ethics, which are really, really important. And so that's why I was denied that, redirected from that experience, I think. But I did that. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years. I went back to work. I always work in the healthcare system, but firstly in human resources, and then I worked in community health. And so that was my background. But at the time of like stepping into my spiritual work, I was not working. I was a stay-at-home mom.
That was a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I had the whole different experience. I actually just stopped working like in December because I was getting sick. Spirit was calling me. I was just like every month something was happening with my body, and I've never, like I don't even take regular medicines, and we already discussed how old I am.
Yeah.
I don't take anything regular like every day. I have something that I take for my back, but I don't even take that hardly unless it's like super bad. And I started getting sick. And I was like, what is going on? And so finally I started just asking. I was like, what is going on? Because it was like I would get something and then I would go back to work, because I know I was only working 2-3 days a week. Because I knew I was in burnout, but I didn't know how to get out. I didn't know. I just didn't know. And because we're taught to just push through.
Yep.
We're taught to just keep pushing, especially as women, because we just push through, you can do this, and this is how we were basically raised. And so I was pushing through, but it was not working. And then I finally got long COVID. I got COVID in last June, and then in September, it was long COVID. So I couldn't remember. My short-term memory was like that, and I'm in recovery now, which has been a blessing. My exhaustion hit me like every single day. It would hit me like, because I was never a person like to nap.
Mm-hmm.
I had to start napping because I could not stay awake. And then it started affecting me at work because I was working like second shift. So, like 2 to 10. And then, it would hit me around 4 o'clock in the afternoon where I just felt like if I didn't lay down, I was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
That's how bad that thing was. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I realized that it was a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It was a gift because it was time for me, to come out of that matrix,
Mm-hmm.
and step out of the spiritual closet, which is what I just did as well. Same thing like you. And I was like, okay, all right. And I felt some kind of way when I first even said it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the same thing like you did. I just did a live and I was like, okay, I'm just going to talk about it.
This is who I am. This is what's
Who I am.
happening.
This is
Yep.
happening. This is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. But did you feel like a sense of adventure when you
Yeah.
finally decided to just bite the
I
bullet?
felt like I stepped into my true self for the first time in my whole life.
Love it.
Yeah. And there was, even if like, maybe it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, or things were slow, or like whatever would have happened, I still would have been seeking and like trying new paths and like continuing down the same one. I don't think I would have taken no for an answer when it came to that. Yeah, a curiosity is a big one. I love to follow I think curiosity is the medicine for uncertainty. I think that if you've
I
been
agree.
denied something, right, or you feel like you've been rejected from something, how often when we have been quote unquote rejected or let go of something, it turns out to be this major blessing, right? Like that's the gift of hindsight. It gives you that you can look back. And if we can hold on to that in the moment when, the proverbial crap is hitting the fan, we can get through it. And that's why I say redirection is direction. It's so simple, but it's so helpful. If you just stop going, okay, like, what did I do wrong? This is awful. Beating yourself up for feeling like you need to take a nap or feeling like you can't continue to work. Instead, get curious and go, why? Why is this showing up? Like, what was this trying to teach me, and why? And what can I do with this? What's the gift of it or the medicine of it? I, like you, also got really sick years ago. So like we were talking off camera about how off air, we were talking about
human
how
design
human design, but
in the
also
green
how
room.
in the green room, we were talking about how I noticed that energy sensitive people also can be sensitive in all ways, including dietary, like sense, environment, all the things. And so years ago, like when I was working for healthcare, I was working in community health, and I was raising 2 little kids, and my husband was in the military at the time, so he was away, and I was trying to do it all by myself with no family support. I also got burnt out, and I started to get sick all the time, and I was getting hives on my skin. I started getting chronic sore throats and throats infections, and then I had walking pneumonia 3 times in a 6-month period. And I thought,
my gosh,
when it rains, it pours, right? Like I thought, I wish I had the awareness then. Oh, this is telling me to stop working, right? Like eventually I got to the point where I was like, I just can't anymore because my body told me I couldn't. But it would have made that feel better.
Did people react strangely when you said that?
No, actually, my boss, she said to me, I knew this was going to happen, and I'm so surprised it took you so long to hand in your notice, because we all knew that this was like just not working out. Not that I wasn't doing a good job at work. It was like I was stressed and I was sick, and right. And she's like, I'm so surprised you lasted this long. Thank you for being dedicated, but my God, it's time to go, right? And so we parted on good ways. But I feel like something that wants to come out in this moment is like how when we do feel like, maybe we're meeting obstacles or things are happening like that, things aren't working as smoothly. I think of them as like little red flags from our soul, right? Like, okay, it's time to do something different. It's time to do something different. And we ignore it. most of the time. And then the rug gets ripped out from underneath it, right? Like the marriage we were in that wasn't working ends. The job that we say we hate ends, like something ends. And I feel like it's important to know that like choice matters to us at a soul, and having the choice, like making the choice yourself to remove yourself from work rather than being let go, feels so much better to the
Yes.
soul, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think of those little red flags or obstacles as like spirit's giving me a choice here.
Yes.
I can accept and move through the uncertainty with curiosity. Where are you taking me? Oh, fun, let's go. Or, sit in the muck and the uncomfortable. That takes a lot. I feel like we have to be put through we have to be drugged through the mud a few times for us to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But once we do, isn't it freeing? It's so freeing.
So
Yeah.
free. To me, it reminds me of like when I decided to cut my hair. I was like, you know what? It's time to do it. I just need a break. I need some freedom and I need something. And it was such a huge shift when I did it, even though I was like, oh my God, did I just do that?
I smiled. I smiled when you're talking about your hair, because if you can believe it, I mean, this is how the universe works, right? I feel like they're not coincidences. I literally was just talking about hair with somebody the other day, and I shared with them how I cut off all my hair. I always had long hair. I cut it off into a pixie about 8 years ago, and how freeing it was. And I feel like every woman should do that once.
Yeah.
Because so much of our identity and our sense of self often is tied into our hair, right? It has the ability to make us feel really beautiful or like really like not beautiful, right? And so if we can like detach from that,
yes,
I feel like we can see like we would be beautiful with no hair, right?
I'm telling you, it's like when
amazing.
I think about my life, it's like every time I made a transition, I did a chop.
I think women do this, right? Or me too. I'll cut my own bangs, like dye my hair. Like it's always something with the hair with us.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I was reading something about that. I wish I could remember it like exactly, but something about the spiritual, how like much energy and how spiritual hair actually is.
Yes. Somebody, Lenny Kravitz was talking about that.
Yeah.
I don't remember, he had the dreads and all that stuff. Well, he said that when he decided that it was time for him to make some changes in his life, that was one of the changes. And he described the freedom that he felt when he cut that hair off. And I was like, wow, and it had me thinking, because I feel the same way. Like I got divorced. That was the first thing I did.
Yeah.
My hair was probably a little longer than yours. And it was popping anyway. My hairdresser was like, your hair's breaking. And I said, that's stress. I said, cut it. She said, you want me to cut all this hair? I was like, cut it. It's just hair.
It's just hair. It's
time for it to go. She cut it. And I was like, okay. And that was like the first thing, because I was like, you know what? I need something, and same thing. I just made transitions and it was like, time to cut. Or time to braid, something different. It's like, I need a different change. Got one question for you. You said that you were interested in ethical and inclusive spirituality. What does that mean to you?
So inclusive means that, like I said, I don't feel like there's a hierarchy of spirit or souls, right? Like, and so I feel like that goes for us too. But we live in a society where we do place people in a hierarchy, where somebody is better.
Oh, we put them way up here,
or more valuable than someone else, and really that's BS, right? Like when I connect to somebody's energy, I see how the similarities that we all have versus the differences. For the most part, it's shown me just how similar we are. But the inclusive piece is like in the spiritual world, and kind of like the spiritual days gone by, when you think about stereotypical like psychic or the medium, you might think of them like, you must come to me as the oracle in the sky, like I have all the answers and you don't know shit, and so you need to come to me. And I don't think that's helpful. I think that is totally based on ego. That's not what the spirit world's about. That's not why spirit would give somebody the gift of being able to connect to people's loved ones or to, you know, somebody's energy. It's always to help. So I feel like, number one, ethics are important, because you need to know what's okay to say and what's not to say to somebody. You need to know, like, you need to have boundaries, right? Like nothing grinds my gears more than seeing somebody on social media talk about like fear-based things, right? Or like attachments and like curses and all this stuff. It drives me crazy, because I'm like, how is that helpful? Like, if you feel an attachment, then remove it silently and be done with it. Like, why do you need to place that in somebody's consciousness so now they can feel disempowered and
they
worry
can be
about it all the
fixated
time?
on it.
Yes, which we know thought creates. So if all of a sudden you're like, I have an attachment, I've been cursed, maybe you're going to feel that way because you're thinking that, you're projecting it out, you're attracting experiences that fit that reality. So ethics need to happen. Ethics need to happen in mediumship and in psychic work. Absolutely. Anybody that you feel like isn't there to empower you, like I always say, I know I've done a good job if you don't need me again. I don't, like, you can come see me a couple times a year if you want to. That's great, as long as you feel like I'm helping and empowering you. I don't want you to be dependent on me. And I see that a lot in the work that I do. People wanting, oh, this is my paycheck, so I need them to keep coming. And I'm like, but that's not true abundance, and that's not really aligning with a sense of abundance, because you're in a scarcity lack mindset, because you feel like nobody else will come unless you you know, have that person rely on you. That's the thing too with like scam accounts. Like, how you said something like you had your account taken away on social media, right?
Oh yeah.
Was it a
Stolen.
scammer?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like they'll target this business. I think it can be an easy business to target, to be honest, right? Which is just one more challenge that we have to work through and continue to show up as, you know, authentic people.
Yeah.
But
because
yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, because have you had those people popping in your inbox?
That's the reason why I don't go live on Facebook anymore. I used to go live all the time on Facebook. Every time I go on there, the people that are viewing it are getting harassed by scammers.
Yeah.
And it drives me freaking crazy. And I try, like when I educate my people, my clients and my followers, you know, I'll say that is all. If somebody DMs you and solicits you that way about, like, come to a reading, or, you know, I feel this energy of your ancestors, or I feel like you have a curse and I can remove it for you for, you know, whatever. That is a huge red flag, because number one, a professional psychic or medium or spiritual practitioner will never DM you.
No.
They just will not.
No.
And the reason is because that it's kind of like, it's coming from a place of lack. If you work authentically for the spirit world, you know that spirit will provide as long as you are providing good service. So you don't need to go around and bang on doors, right? Or DM people. So if somebody ever is doing that to you, it's probably a big red flag.
Yeah, I always tell people that. I said, you know, typically when they come, I say, listen, I don't do random people in my energy. You know, go away somewhere. I don't even know you.
Right.
I was like, and then the other thing is, why are you coming to me with doom and gloom?
Right.
Somebody
there's a negativity.
Somebody came to me and said, can you you need to stay home. Girl, I was on my way to my mother-in-law's funeral. I was like, no, I'm not staying home. I'm going to the funeral. I don't even know who you are. Leave me alone. Get out my inbox. Right. I was like, and you know, leave me alone. I was like, what are you talking about?
That's fear-based, right?
It was. And I was like, I don't do fear-based. And even when I read, like I don't know about you, but so I read in this shop once a month, like a metaphysical shop. And I had some ladies come to me. This is so funny, girl. They came to me, and you know what they wanted to know? When was their husband going to die? And I was like, oh, okay. And then the other thing is, why are you coming to me with doom and gloom? Girl, I was on my way to my mother-in-law's funeral. I was like, no, I'm not staying home. I'm going to the funeral. I don't even know who you are. Leave me alone. Get out my inbox. I was like, what are you talking about? And
Oh my God.
It was two
Really?
of them. They were older ladies and they came together.
What did you say?
I said, no, first they said, was their husband going to die? I said, of course he's going to die. We're all
Everybody.
dying. I said, some faster than others, you know?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they said, well, I'm just trying to find out when. I was like, that's not something that I can do. I said, that's
Good
not
for
something
you.
that I can know, you know, and I was quite clear on that. And I think we talked about some other things or whatever, but that was their main reason for coming. And I thought, I wonder who they were used to getting that type of information from. That was
There's lots of people
my
that will
thought.
do that, but that's a really good example of
Yeah,
an ethical reader. You are an ethical reader.
for sure. Because I'm like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want anybody to do that to me.
We shouldn't know that information.
I was going to say, I told somebody, I said, well, the Bible says that no man knows the day or the hour. I said, I think that's right. I said, you don't,
Mhm.
I mean, how do you know? I was like, now, if all of a sudden, like if I see something like that, I said, but to be honest, I don't even know if that was information that I would share because
Mhm.
I've gotten things like that before where I got stuff and I was like, ooh, should I tell them that?
Mhm.
You know,
I think if the
and
question arises, you shouldn't.
that's what I was going to say. Has
Yeah.
that been something that you've dealt with it as well as like, you know, you get information and you're like, should I say that to them? Because for me,
Um,
I'm raw
yeah, a little
and
bit at the
real and
beginning,
mm,
a little bit at the beginning, I'd say, but like this work is based on intention, right? So
yes,
like
yes.
what you're intending, like a spirit will listen to you. You can set boundaries with spirit, right? So for me, I just set my intentions with spirit and I say what I want from them. And at this point they know how I work. So I don't even have to do this anymore, but they know like don't bring me anything that cannot be shared with this person or that shouldn't be shared with this person or
Okay,
that
so
is not in this high.
I can set that intention with okay,
Yes. So what
cool.
I
I like
say
that.
with every client is, please connect me with, specific guidance, clarity, what have you, evidence for this person's highest and best good only. I don't want to know anything else that's not in their highest and best good. If we don't need to know that to help them, we don't need to have it come in. So I do trust, like sometimes sensitive topics will come in, but because of that intention and that boundary I've set for over consistently for like 5 years, I don't worry so much if a sensitive subject comes in. So I'll kind of go into it tactfully and I'll say, okay, so I feel like I've got some information coming in about this. Is this something you're okay with me speaking on? And more often than not, the person will go, yeah, it's actually why I'm here today. Right. Or it's, I need you to tell it to me straight. And so then I go for it. But I always trust that if it's coming in, because of how I've set my parameters, that it's okay to share.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. As for the inclusive piece that you asked me about, I think that's just like is making it so that people don't feel like I'm above them or, or that spirituality is something for just certain kind of people and it's not for like
Yes,
everyday people. It's for
yes,
all of us. It's for all of us.
yes. That is good
Yeah.
because that is what I've seen. You know, like I
Exactly.
had people come through that said stuff like, oh, well, so and so and so and so and so, you know, we're doing the reading and having the conversation or whatever. And she said, oh, so and so, and you know, oh, but you probably already knew that. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. Because that's, you know, and I
Sometimes it
think
can be,
people, I was gonna
yeah,
say, I think people are looking at like, you know, Bewitched and, you know,
right.
what's her name,
Yeah.
Jeannie
Yeah.
and Medium and those shows.
Hmm.
What was the other one? The Ghost Whisperer and
Ghost Whisper. Yeah. I'm trying to think of them. I think that might be it.
but that's
I
what
think the movie that like most, I know this isn't like a good example because it's kind of like a little bit of like a thriller slash drama, but like
Ghost?
the Sixth Sense.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I don't see spirit like he did, like the little boy did. Like I don't see spirit like sitting in the chair next to me in their physical form. That is called objective mediumship. Um,
Oh,
Okay, so some people will see spirit with their physical eyes, and I have seen like shadow and things like that, where like I knew who the person was based on the shape of the shadow, but that's something that kind of freaks me out a little bit. So I've actually said to spirit, like, no more of that, please. I don't want to see you sitting in my chair. Like, please, all subjective mediumship, which means it comes in like impressions in your mind's eye.
Yeah,
But so like
I see that way sometimes.
in person,
Yeah, like
do
I'll
you?
see, forms, and
Yeah.
like if they have a hat on, or sometimes
Yes.
clothes, or sometimes I actually see the person, which is really weird, but
With your physical eyes or with your third eye?
like I can, I
Like,
think
is it
I'm
coming from your mind?
probably, I think I'm like probably projecting it. You know what I mean? Because
Okay.
it's really it's really been
Hard to,
strange.
yeah, because I see like when people come through, they will more often than not, first they'll tell me like the relationship to the client. So they'll be like father, dad, whatever. And so I'll say, I feel like I have a father figure here. And then then they'll start to like show me something about their physicality. More often than not, it's something that like you would really recognize in a person. Like sometimes people will go like, and they'll like point to their profile and their nose, and I'll be like, this person have a distinctive or a large nose? Yeah, like it's things that like you would really know about this person. But I do see them, but it's not in my environment. It's all from here. So it's like a movie playing in my head. I
Yeah.
guess that's the way to describe it.
And I think it scared me when I would see them, because I seen them like in my bedroom,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Mhm. For me too, I'm like, I don't
and
really want to see
here,
you like that. I will work with you, but please work within my boundaries and what I want. And people don't realize that, like, because a lot of highly sensitive
no,
people are just like almost afraid of spirit because of their introduction to spirit, right? Or because they were a little kid and their grandma was sitting at the end of the bed, and she's been passed away for 20 years, and that freaked them out. And then they kind of turned away or shut off from that. But the thing is, like, we can set boundaries and ask for what we want with spirit. I think that's important to know. And I also think that we all can connect to spirit. I truly do. That's like a belief system that I have, to some degree, right? Like if you
yes,
think about like a certain skill or something that somebody might call a gift, like a singer, right? Like maybe there's somebody that comes out of the womb with like perfect pitch, right? They don't need an ounce of training. They're amazing. Doesn't mean that like I can't sing too. I wasn't born with a perfect pitch, but I could sing, and I could also take training to make myself a little bit better.
right,
But I think those of us that kind of step into this ability naturally, or that it's been around our whole lives, it's just a scale of sensitivity. It's like a spectrum. And I think that we're just like way up here. And somebody else might be kind of like down here, but it doesn't mean that their loved one isn't around them. It
right.
doesn't mean that they have to go to a medium to feel connected to their loved one. It just means they might not perceive them as clearly as someone like myself or like you could.
So do you feel like sometimes people are just not ready to open up, or like they just,
I think so.
because
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Sorry.
because we know that everybody is intuitive, everybody has
Yes,
intuition,
that's right.
but do you feel like people just, they're just either not ready? I know that sometimes, in my experience, some people they fight it because of their religious program, because they were programmed that all this stuff was the devil, and
Mhm.
tarot cards and all these things, and of course mediumship, of course,
Yeah,
and so I think that sometimes that blocks people from
absolutely.
allowing their intuition to open up. But do you feel like there are other reasons why possibly that people won't connect to their
Yeah.
soul?
Yeah, I think that's a big piece. Yeah, like our conditioning and things certainly play a part. Um, although I agree, I feel everybody has an intuition, therefore everybody's intuitive. Everybody has psychic senses, even if, they're not utilizing them all the time. We all know what a gut feeling is, right?
Right.
I think that this kind of work, if it's meant to like be something like a vocation or something that you're really meant to embody, I think that it will show up for you, and it will feel sort of like I don't want to say easy, but there will be a transition, or a clear path to get to it. I don't believe that it's in everybody's life path to be a professional psychic medium, right?
Right.
It might just in that lifetime that's not their path. um So I think it's like a level of like interest. Like, what are you interested in? Like my husband, I talked about him a little bit, I think maybe off in the green room.
In the green room, yeah.
Right? Like very, like, I wouldn't say skeptical. I think he would have been skeptical before I stepped into this work. Certainly he would have labeled himself as that, but still, even though he's seen me work, he's never asked me for a reading because he's not interested in it. So for him, do I think it's in his path to be a psychic medium? No, it's just not part of his life path, but it doesn't mean that if he wanted to learn more and open himself up that he couldn't. But I think if that desire comes up for you, like I think if that desire comes up, that it means it is a part of your path. Do you know what I mean? Does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
exactly
if
what I
you
was
have a
saying.
block, but it's within your path that you were meant to unblock it, you will, is how I feel.
Yeah, because a lot of
Yeah.
people, I know a lot of people are watching, and that's some of the questions that they have, because people are like, oh, well, can anybody do this work?
If you want to, if you have a
right.
desire. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you say that is your greatest work that you're here to do? So what would you call, so like I'm going to share, like for me, I feel like I'm here to help people connect to their soul and really create, the space where they are supposed to be, or where they desire to be, or where they're being called to. So what is it that you feel like is your greatest, I guess, mission?
It's similar. It's I have a mission of connection. I know that. So that goes in it goes down a few different paths. It's connecting with myself, and that's part of my journey here, is connecting to myself and what lights me up, and giving myself permission to follow it. It's connection with other people. It's connecting other people, like connection is definitely a pillar, definitely a part of my life. I feel that I am here to empower people. I'm here to show them what they are capable of, what they were born to do. And so the things that come through in my work are, like for instance, I think we talked in the green room about one of my readings that I offer, which is called a higher self reading. So when I do this kind of reading, I'm tapping into this person's energy at such a deep level that it's really like at the soul level, right? Even though you are your higher self right now, I find sometimes it's easier for myself and for other people to visualize your higher self as like that very enlightened, awakened, I've lived all my lives and I've done everything I need to do person way up here, far away, light years away, looking back at you right now and giving you guidance on how to get there. And so the things I tap into are like, what are your gifts? Like, what is supposed to be the easy button here because you've already mastered it before? And the moment you step in and you embody those, everything else unfolds for you. Not only that, but what does your energy feel like to other people? How do you impact people? What are your potential energy blocks? We all have them. For me, I equate energy blocks with karma. So I know karma is a loaded term and everybody has different belief system around what karma is. But for me and my beliefs, I feel like karma are patterns and cycles that we've been on doing for a really long time, and we're meant to transcend them. We're meant to, end that chapter in some way. Karma is neither good or bad. It just is. It's neutral. It just is how I feel. And so energy blocks. So something might show up as like a pattern or a cycle that you're meant to move through. Also, like, what are you fearful of or like limited or challenged by in this lifetime? And the thing about those things, this is my favorite part to tap in for somebody, is those are the mountains you came here to climb. So it's very counterintuitive to your soul to go, oh, I feel limited by this, or I'm scared crapless to do it, therefore I'm going to run away from it. Your soul is like, oh my God, like this is what you came here to do. And when you do them and you move through them, then they become the easy button and the gifts in the next life, right? So, this is a question I'll leave the listeners with. Fear, or not a question, it's contemplation. Your fears and the things that excite you feel the same in the body. Exact same. If you really like sit with this and think about it, you'll realize they feel exactly the same in your body. There's no difference
I
other than,
agree with that wholeheartedly.
right? It's the same, except you've labeled it different. Maybe the thing you're calling a fear, you don't have any context for, you don't really know how this is going to turn out, or maybe it's just like something you really have to do, but you don't want to do it because you're always going to face resistance when you're supposed to do something, but you're scared to do it, right? Versus excitement, they're the same damn thing. Like they're the same thing. And so I think of that anytime I feel like I'm limited by something, and I'm like, this can easily turn into excitement if I just flip the switch on this.
Yes.
And it's helped me. And I know that that's where the most evolution in this lifetime is going to happen. And that's how you speed up your timelines. That's how you accelerate. All of that is you just climb that mountain. You just do it. And the thing is, when you face your fears and you climb your mountain, your helpers show up on the mountain. People just show up. Things just show up, opportunities show up, and you're like, whoa, right? Like it's like magic. But if you always go down the easy path, sometimes it's fruitless, right? Like you don't meet your people there. You don't have all the opportunities there sometimes. So yeah, I want to impart that on people because that personally has been very life-changing for me.
Yes.
That's part of my mission. Yeah, that's part of my mission, is like it's breaking down myths and misconceptions that keep people small and fearful. And it's empowering them to just do the thing. That's what my guide, that's my tagline from my spirit guide. Do it scared. Just break and do it. Like my spirit guide is very no nonsense. So it's like, just do it. Like dry your eyes and go.
I was going to say mine
have
to be. Mine have to be.
That's the only way they get through to me, at least.
Mine have to be. It's like they already know. They're like, this bitch is hard-headed.
She's been on this merry-go-round for lifetimes. We're gonna have to give her a swift kick to the bum. That's how I view my spiritual awakening. It wasn't like it was gradual if I look back to it, but at the time it felt like somebody just pushed me through a door and was like, have fun, like that's what it felt like. See ya. Like, okay. And that was scary. Like when people are like, how did you do that? Weren't you scared? Yeah. But there was something in me that knew if I didn't do it, it'd be the biggest regret of my life. So I had to do it. And then all the helpers and all the opportunities showed up. Yeah. So yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
I think the universe rewards the brave.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that completely. Because it's like, as soon as you start saying, okay, I'm going to do this. And just like you said, things start showing up, because I would have never dreamed that I could be off of work. This is August now, 8 months, and still be good.
You're good.
I'm good. It's like,
good.
Oh my God, I never would have ever thought that. And it's like, all right. But I had to take the step because, I had been through the sickness and stuff. And it was like, they were like, get out there. It's time for you to do this.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about human design.
Okay.
And how that has come into your work, because I know that has shown up.
Yeah, I love human design and I love gene keys. Do you know anything about the gene keys?
Girl, I got gene keys.
Oh my goodness. I got all the books too. Yeah. I got like all the books.
I'm like in the
Richard Rudd fan club. Yeah, me too. Yeah. So human design entered my world about 3.5 years ago. So I didn't really know much about it. I knew like occasionally I'd see, like I knew the word, but I didn't know what it was about because I'd see it like on Instagram and things like that. People would be talking about it. Didn't know anything about it. In intuitive guidance readings, which is what I call a psychic reading, right? And I just reframe it as intuitive guidance rather, because I don't want people to think I'm a fortune teller, because I'm not.
That part.
That is a myth we have to bust. Yes. Fortune telling.
Yes.
The future is not set in stone. We actively create it day by day, choice by choice. So anybody that tells you in 5 years this is absolutely going to happen is
lying.
Or they're coming from a lens of like, sometimes I bring in future things, right? But I always say, this is a high probability. If it's showing up as a possibility, it means you can have this. And hey, let's find out how to better get you on that path. Or why aren't you already on it? Like what's blocking you from it versus like, how much of a disservice is it to say this is going to happen in 5 years and then don't give you any guidance and you don't do anything different in your life? Like that's a disservice.
Or what about the ones that say, yeah, I see you're going to die in 5 years?
I actually had a client tell me that she had to work her nerve up to book with me, but I came so highly recommended by her friends that she did. But she had gone to see a psychic medium like 4 or 5 years beforehand. And that psychic medium told her that her sister was going to die of cancer in the next 2 years. That is a highly unethical thing to do. That's not in anybody's highest and best good. That does harm. Right? We're here to do no harm, right? I always say we're here to leave things better than we found them. That should be our goal.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's why I call intuitive guidance the reading is what I should say. So long story short, it's always a long story with me. Sorry.
It's okay. That's why we're here.
I'm a storyteller. I would do these readings and I would tap into information and I'd be like, human design, manifester, does this make sense? The person be like, well, I've heard of human design, but I don't know what my type is, right? Or I'd bring through certain like strategies or like the authority, right? Like emotional authority or sacral authority. And I bring this information in and I'd be like, where is this coming from? Right. So I bought a human design book and I started to learn about it. And I was like, whoa. So whenever this comes through, like it's accurate. Because my clients that I would bring it up with would then go, so you're right. I am a 3-5 generator. I'd be like, where is this coming from? I need to learn more about it. So I've been learning about that for 3.5 years now. And the gene keys.
It's so much.
It's so much information. Some people are overwhelmed by it, right? They're like, oh my God, what is this? Yeah, it's a lot of information.
I was because I a true story. When I first did my chart, I thought I was born at a different time.
Yeah.
So it changed my whole design. So when I first did my chart, it said reflector.
Right.
And then when I was asked, I was talking to my mom about it or something, and I was like, yeah, I put in the time I was born, and I said, well, what time was I born? And she said, you were born like 12:30, like midnight 12:30.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that I was born at 11:30 a.m.
Oh, that's a big difference.
Yeah. So when I put in the midnight 12:30, that's when the reflector thing came up, and I was like, what the fuck? Because I had already kind of looked at projector. And I was like, well, I could kind of get with that.
Oh, so you thought you were a projector first, but you're actually a reflector. Okay.
Yes.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. But I was like, okay, I and then once I started looking into it, I actually had a reading with a girl that does the human design readings, and she did it really good. She laid it out and she gave me, I have papers and stuff that, a report and all that. And so she shared and I understood some, and then I started kind of diving into it a little bit more and started trying to find more information, which is so hard because it's not a whole lot. And for a while, it was like all the information was regurgitated, the same information, just, and I was like, but I saw a video that Ra did on it, and that was super helpful.
Yeah.
The guy that created it.
Ra Uruha. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a video he did, and it was super helpful. And I kind of was understanding a little bit more. And then I kind of started looking at other people's designs too, because, I noticed that I could kind of pick up on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, you're a generator. You got all this energy,
Would you have known that I was a generator?
I did.
Yeah, you had a feeling.
I saw that when I was watching you on the thing.
Yeah.
Because on YouTube, I was like, yeah, because it's wild because sometimes it just pops in my head.
Yeah, like me.
I'm like, I bet you're a manifestor.
Yeah. I remember doing. It's funny because we talked about the higher self readings that I do. There's been so many instances where I've looked at that and then I've compared it afterwards. I've been like, I think I've looked at it through the lens of human design and be like, this person is definitely a manifestor based on what came through. And then they are. And that just happened last week where somebody had a higher self reading with me. I brought all this information in. And then a friend of mine who does gene keys for businesses, right? For small businesses was working with her at the same time that I was working with this woman, and me and the Gene Keys woman are like know each other, right? So we're like, this is random. We're both working with the same client, and you could see the overlap. And like when I talked to the client, you could see how much her human design showed up in her higher self reading. I think it's all connected, and energy it's all connected.
It is.
Yeah,
it is, and I think that's the beauty of it for me,
Yeah.
because it's like to me, it's like every time I learn something new, on this journey, because like you, so many courses and so many classes
Yeah.
and never enough. Let's talk a little bit about that before we land the plane.
Okay.
So I know that when we were talking in the green room, we were talking about how, you at one time felt like, you had to know more, 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 and it just never ended. It was like, like a never ending story. I got to know more. I need to take another class, another class, another class before, and you and I are similar, and probably many, many people watching us are the same, where, we just have to get to a place where we feel comfortable enough to, step out there, or we know enough or whatever. Let's talk a little bit about how that worked for you.
Well, what's funny is, so that came about when I shared that I'm a 5/1
Yes.
in human design. That's my profile. So the 1 is the investigator who needs to know all the information, goes down the rabbit holes, needs to know all the things. But the shadow side of that is feeling like, even though other people might see me as an authority or an expert about something, I feel insecure about my knowledge, and like I could never know enough to share. And the 5, from my understanding, is one of the most projected upon profiles that there is, right? It's called the heretic. So it's like, what I've learned about that too is like, whether, people are crapping on you or they're putting you on a pedestal, none of it matters, because none of it's you. It's all a projection. And that's part of the 5's journey here. So I think it kind of makes sense that I'm in the role I am as a medium, where some people may criticize me and think that I'm the devil, and somebody else might go, oh my God, she's like sent from the heavens, right? But none of it is about me. None of it is about me. It's about them and their projections. That's why I think the ego piece comes in, of like making sure that you don't tap into the ego. But the thing is, I actually haven't taken any courses.
Cool.
I self-study the crap out of everything. So I read and read and read and read and read. But I used to have an insecurity about the fact that I mentor other people and teach other people, yet I haven't been taught and mentored. So that was my insecurity about that. But now, viewing it through my human design, I see that that is me working through the shadow and the insecurity of the 1, and just doing it anyway. So for me, I read all the books. That's the thing I do. I watch all the videos. So it's similar, but that's the piece that comes in when people are like, don't you think it's impulsive that one day you just declared yourself a medium and stepped into it? And I'm like, no, I think that's part of my healing. I think that scared the shit out of me, but I had to do it. I just had to do it. I think there comes a point where you just have to do it. You have to say, I know enough. I know enough. And I just have to do it. And it's scary.
Yes.
But I see myself having like walked through that insecurity a bit in this role.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes, I understand it completely, because that's the thing.
Because when will ever be enough?
Exactly.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Is, do you ever like set a word of the year? Like, are you a person that does that?
Yes.
So I do that too. And this year, 2023, the word that came into me was enthusiast. And I'll tell you why. It came about because I was listening to a video with Gary V. Do you know who Gary V is?
Oh, yes.
Like a motivation. Yeah, I love him.
Yes.
So he was answering this question from somebody in the audience about like, how do I get other people to view me as an expert? And what he said is, why do you want to be an expert? Like, an expert is I'm paraphrasing Gary Vee, obviously. Other people can view you as that expert. They can put you on that pedestal and be like, I need to go to Amy, or I need to go to Tammi because she has all the answers. But like, why do you need to identify with that? Why is that a goal? Because an expert gives this feeling of like, there's a level that's reached to be an expert, but then what's beyond it? It's like you've reached, it's not expansive.
Right.
So he said, why don't you try being an enthusiast? And when an enthusiast shows up and does their work, everybody wants to be a part of that, because they're like, whoa, they're passionate for their craft. They're excited, but also they continue to learn and grow and evolve. They're not putting a cap on themselves. So, yeah. So for me, it's really reframed. It helped me move through the insecurity of my line 1. or however that's showing up for you with like, do I have enough information? Am I ready to just put myself out there? I think that when you're passionate,
Right.
I think people respond to it, and
Yeah.
they don't need you to be a self-proclaimed expert. They just want to be in your energy and learn with you.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that. And that's so perfect, because it's like, everybody wants to be a guru. And I think I did a little live or a video or clip or something on that. And I said, you got to be your own guru.
That's right.
Because
That's what
somebody
you
asked
and
me
I are here to
something.
do, to
Yeah,
show
I was
other
like,
people. Yeah.
you be your own guru.
Yeah.
Go inside. I was telling somebody just recently, I said, I got invited to some course or something. I said, I'm not doing any of that. I said, this is my year of going inside. I said, this is my year of, tapping into the guidance that lives within me. I said, this is that year for me. I said, it's not time for me to be listening to anybody else's shit. I said, and I do always listen to, like, YouTube videos and, like, Facebook lives, Instagram lives, whatever, TikTok lives or whatever. But, just to actually be in these containers, no, it's not my season for that. And so, some people I have gotten angry with me about that. Can you imagine?
No.
I'm
Why?
like, yeah, no, but I think that's so important, because many times we spend so much time in other people's energy, that we
Yeah.
have to take that time to spend in our own energy. So
Yeah.
what is one thing in the world that you would change?
Oh my God, this is such a big question.
No.
If I could, like what in an ideal world,
Yeah.
we would come into the world. This is a big question for me. We would come into the world we do come into the world feeling whole, right? Spirit always teaches me, you're a whole ass person, right? You are a whole person.
Yep.
You don't feel insecurity when you're a baby. You don't worry about the size
Nope.
of your thighs when you're a baby. You're just there, right? And you expect to receive because it's your God-given right?
Yes.
Then the world takes chunks out of you because it's trying to fit you into the status quo. This is the thing. I think the status quo is the matrix. I think it is. I think the world is set up in a way to make you feel like you have to be something different than you are. But the real test is to be yourself regardless. And the more people I connect to, the more I know that nobody feels like they fit in, if we're really honest. We all feel like we don't fit in. So I feel like it's about, like, if we could raise our children, or educate children, like however that shows up, or educate the people in your life to know that they are already whole. They don't need anyone or anything. I think that would be the ideal world, because then I think, I think about a world, if you were raised knowing that, and society taught you that, and then they were like, what are you really passionate about, Tammi? What do you love to do? Okay, let's provide some foundation so you can do that in the world. Like, think about how happy and fulfilling life would be, because we all have something we're really good at.
Yes.
But most of us aren't living it because society is not set up for us to feel supported, or like we could support ourselves by doing it.
No, because they want us to be workers.
They want us to be worker
That's the
bees.
program.
Yeah, that's the Industrial Revolution. But like, we're moving into a new time. Like Gene Keys says, 2027, we're moving into a new time. Yes, I'm ready. And we're like entering the age of Aquarius. Well, we're in the age of Aquarius.
We are in the age of Aquarius.
The more you study Aquarius and what that stands for. I mean, today we're recording on the full moon in Aquarius. Like, it's a beautiful synchronicity. That's all about, like, stripping away at the structures that keep us small. Like, the next couple 100 years are going to be big changes, I think. But for the better, it's coming. So I think that's what, in an ideal world, like, that's what I would want to change. And that's what I tried to be and do as a mother, and also as someone who serves the public, to other people that are influencing other people. Like, we're all influencing people. We all have a ripple effect.
Yes.
And so I think that every little thing that you do for the benefit of somebody else is the best thing that you could ever do, you know, like
Yes.
the ripple effect. You don't like, that's like the life review at the end of the, you know, when you hear people say we have a life review at the end of life.
Yes.
I
Yes.
feel like that's true. And I feel like what it is this like 360-degree kind of download of every single positive impact, negative impact, every single ripple effect you ever made in your life and where it led to. And when you're living, usually you don't have access to that. Like, you don't know, somebody listening to this is then going to talk to somebody else and then their child and their child. And like, you don't know how far it's going to spread.
Right.
So I think it's about like showing up and coming from a good place. And what's the saying? Do no harm, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my mission. Very long-winded one. A lot of moving parts with that, but yeah, it sounds corny, but I just want to leave people feeling happy and empowered and able to live their best lives.
No, it does not. It sounds amazing because I have the same mission.
It doesn't surprise me. I think a lot of us people that, you know, what I would maybe call a light worker, which is a highly overused word, I
Yes,
know,
yes,
but the
yes,
true definition of that is somebody that would help with that, would
yes.
help somebody remember their light.
I just really I want people to know that they have magic inside of them
They do. Yeah.
and that they can tap in whenever they're ready,
Yeah.
and that's a part of, what I feel like is like, to me, it's like the highest calling and gift,
Yeah.
because we all have that, but people, they've been shut down for so many years. And, because we had it as kids, up until what were we, 7? And then after that, it's like people squashed the magic, and told you couldn't do stuff. And, you might have had all these dreams, because like you, I feel like I had a hell of imagination,
Yeah.
because I was the only child for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I had imaginary friends and stuff, that now I realize they were my guides.
Mm-hmm.
But, I feel like if we can just bring people back to that place,
Mm-hmm.
where they are looking at the magic. Like, I love unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
And one day when I get the nerve, I want to get a tattoo of one.
Oh, you should. You should. Do you have any tattoos right now?
Not one. That's been one of
Oh,
those things,
you've
I
been
don't,
nervous about it?
yeah, I don't really like pain.
Oh, well,
Not
it does hurt.
intentional.
I just got one like very recently right here.
Oh,
It's
that's
huge.
pretty.
Yeah, it's a mourning dove. It's in memory of my nanny who just passed away the end of May.
Oh, wow,
Um,
that's so beautiful. Girl, how long did that take?
2 hours.
Oh, you had somebody really good, because that looked like it would
He's
have
really
taken
good.
hours.
And I'm actually going back now. I got the itch. So I'm going back on Thursday to talk to him about the next one. And I'm gonna get one right here. And you know what I think I'm gonna get? I'm gonna get like a crystal ball.
Oh,
And then I'm gonna put my spirit totem, which is a fox, a red fox. And he's
how did I
gonna
know that?
did you know
I
he's
did.
going to be there too? Then I think I'm going to put like, I don't know, some constellations, maybe a big hanging moon. I don't know. I'm going to work with it. I'm excited though, but I'm just going
That
to
is
literally
pretty.
wear my identity and my heart on my sleeve. I think that tattoos can be healing.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, just like our hair.
I've been wanting to get one. Actually, I think all my kids have them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have them because one was in the Navy and one was in the Army, and then yeah.
Okay.
And I actually
Yeah.
took one of my sons for his 17th birthday to get his first one, because he was
Yeah.
determined to get it, and I was like, I need to make sure that it's somewhere safe.
Yeah.
And so they're opening up the packs of the needles, this kind of stuff. And he was
Mhm.
just determined. So I took him to get his tattoo, and he got my name on his arm with like a rose coming through it.
That's
Like,
beautiful.
yeah, it was really pretty. And I was like, but that poor baby in the back seat of the car, he was hurt.
It does hurt. And it depends on, like, I have a few, like I got 4 in my early 20s, but they're all like kind of tiny. So this is the first one that's pretty big and noticeable, but it depends on, some hurt more than others. I'll say that. Like I have one on my wrist and that actually hurt really quite badly. I heard that the wrist and the foot hurts pretty
I was
bad.
supposed to get one on my ankle. Me and my
I
cousin were
have one on
going
my ankle,
together.
wasn't so bad.
I didn't. I chickened
This
out.
one, this one was fine. Like when he got like to here and was working towards the end, like the closer he got to the wrist, the more it hurt. Um,
Whew.
But yeah, it wasn't that bad. I was like, I've been through worse. You've been through worse. You've had babies. You
And I
can
had
do it. You had what?
C-sections.
Yeah. So like, yeah, there's a lot of pain and recovery that comes with that, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You can
But
do
you
it.
know, in your mind, well, in my mind, I think, but that wasn't really intentional pain because we didn't really plan for C-section.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
guess that was the only way those babies could get out. But it was like, but yeah, I'm going to get my nerve right. I just have to look around and
When
find
the time's
somebody,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
where I'm at,
Yeah.
because I'm not in the place that I'm familiar with like that. Like we've only been here. We moved here in the pandemic.
To like the state or to the
Yeah,
city?
the state.
Oh, so where are you from?
Savannah
Oh, sorry.
originally,
Okay. Oh,
but
somewhere else. Yeah, we don't have to
I
talk
came
about
from
it.
Arizona. No, okay.
Okay.
I came from
Yeah.
Arizona, and then before that, I was in South Carolina.
Okay.
So I went
But
clear
always
country, clear
southern
across
half
the
of this.
country, and
Mm.
now I'm in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm outside of
yeah.
Seattle.
That's an area I would love to live or
Ooh,
visit. Visit.
yeah.
West
You
Coast for sure. Like
you
I'm an
definitely
East
want to
Coaster.
visit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see the Pacific Ocean.
It's a different vibe out this side.
Yeah.
Because I've
Yeah.
lived all on the eastern coast, like all the way from Georgia up to Connecticut. I lived, but
Okay.
and then I got to Arizona, and that was a different vibe. And then here is a different vibe, but the ocean is there's water everywhere here. It's green, it's beautiful, and now it's summer, so we got sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But oh, when that rain hits, it's difficult for your mental health, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
gotten to the place where I actually just had to just calm down, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because this journey to me took me to places that I'd never realized I was going to go.
I was just thinking that. Yeah. You're just following the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Where
So
to
it's like,
next? Okay.
what are we going to do? How are we going to do
Yeah.
that? No. All right, so
Yeah.
we're gonna land this plane because this has
Yeah.
been an amazing interview. I am so glad that you came on, Amy. This has been
Mhm.
awesome. And I know that, you provided so much value for people that are watching because, a lot of people are watching to see, how this work actually happens. And I try to really bring that forward so that people can actually get comfortable and understand that, this is not fucking bewitched. We're not fortune tellers,
No,
you
regular
know,
people.
regular
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
we connect and we know how to work with energy and, and how to use our intuitive gifts and all this stuff. And so that is, one of the main reasons that I do this show and I actually interview spiritual entrepreneurs. So
I love
anyway,
that.
I love it too. It's been so fun and freeing. Like I actually just shifted that within the last, I think, month or so. Because I used to interview just anybody and everybody. And that was
Hmm.
fun too, because I think that it was a process and something I had
Yeah.
to learn and, how to just talk to different people and stuff. Because I interviewed like people that created seasonings and
Right.
I interviewed a girl that does lashes and she created a lash university. And, it was just interesting conversations. And so when I decided, to make this switch, I was like, okay. And it's been so much fun because
Hmm.
I get to geek out on all this stuff that I love
Hmm.
and I get to talk to such amazing people. So, if you got value from this show, I want you to definitely make sure that you reach out to Amy and she's going to share how you can connect with her best. And all of her details will be in the show notes as well. So you can just click on her links and all this stuff. But she's going to share where is the best place to connect with her.
So probably the best is my website, which is theintuitiverising.com.
Ooh, I
And
love
that
it.
is because there is a whole like kind of like who am I, how I got into this work, how I work. There are links to every single offering that I have. And there's also videos included in that. So I speak on what you could expect versus just like reading about it. So I tell you like what you can expect from the reading, any preparation that I would like you to do, all that kind of stuff. There's links to a blog on there that I update occasionally. There's links, direct links to my podcast on my website. So that's kind of like your, best bet to find out everything. There's also testimonials. So there's like over 100 now testimonials in there of client reviews and things that they've left and the impressions that they've had. And I feel like that's always helpful for people to read, especially when you're hiring somebody to do this kind of work for you. You want to feel like you can trust them, and you want to feel like it's a good energetic match. And sometimes it helps reading other people's experiences. So that's the best one shop place to go. But I also like the Intuitive Rising is my handle on all social media. So YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I do have TikTok, but I like never ever go on it. It's one of those things that I don't know. It wasn't my jam. So I don't update so much over there. But if you Google the Intuitive Rising, I'm sure I will pop up.
I love it. I
Thank
love
you.
it. I love it. So she is Googleable.
I am Googleable. Yeah, for sure.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we are just so grateful that you came on to have this conversation.
Oh, I'm grateful you asked me.
And I know that other people are too, because this is such powerful, amazing work that you're doing out in the world, and
Thank you.
we need it.
We do need it. I do agree. And I think the more people that tap into that authentic parts of themselves, like we all need that. That's what the world is lacking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope that we together have inspired someone to step into that a little bit further.
Yeah.
Baby steps are okay.
Now let me ask you one more question.
Of course.
So what role do you think that the pandemic played in people awakening?
I think it played a major part. Yeah. I think that so there's so many things with this. I feel like number one, it gave people an opportunity, it at least offered them the opportunity, whether or not they took it, was up to them, but it gave the opportunity for stillness and a little bit more of a disconnect from the rat race, right?
Mm.
So it gave people an opportunity to go, okay, who am I? What am I doing with my life? Do I actually like myself? Do I like what I'm doing? Am I aligned on my path? I think it gave people that opportunity. It's like the world has never shut down. Those like first few months that it shut down, like we've never seen that before, ever.
Yep.
At least in our lifetimes. So I think that, if we could take a spiritual kind of, if we could look at that from a spiritual lens, it would be to have people slow down and sit with themselves, which is uncomfortable. And
Yes,
especially
it
when you
is.
don't want to face it. But I have never seen so many people begin to just kind of like uproot their life or like do something totally different or step into their spiritual gifts. Like how many people are now spiritual mentors, or they've tapped into their intuitive side, or they realized that they were a medium and their life didn't allow them to see it because they never had any quiet. They were never able to be still. So
Yeah.
for me, that's what I see come out of the pandemic. And they
That was
also
our gift.
that was the gift of it, right? And I feel like it was, I don't want to say it's purposeful, because I know that the pandemic brought so much pain and people have lost people, and I've connected to so many spirits who have passed
Right.
from COVID. I would never say that everything happens for a reason, because that's triggering and not kind and not for anybody's
Yes.
highest and best good.
I so agree.
Yes, but I feel like something needed to happen to shake us awake
Yes.
collectively.
Yes.
And whether we like it or not, the world is never going to be the same. We're never going to be the same. Things are not, we want them to be totally back to normal, but there's cracks. There's cracks in the foundation, and they've never been so apparent. But what does Leonard Cohen say? The cracks in the pavement let the light in, right?
Yes.
That's the only way we're going to heal all the things we've been burying, all the things we didn't want to acknowledge.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think this is a painful time in history.
Yeah.
I think it's a challenging time in history, and I empathize so much with people. But I feel like if you can look at things of like, what did this trauma give me the opportunity to see? I feel like that puts us in a more empowered mindset about it. And for a lot of people, it's just to for once ask themselves what they want or what makes me happy.
Oh, that part. On that note, we are going to land this plane. That was so amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Whether you are watching the video or you are listening to it on wherever you listen to your podcast, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you are a spiritual entrepreneur and you would like to come on Straight Out of Savannah and talk about it, make sure that you reach out to me. You can send me a message on the podcast platform. You can also comment on the YouTube video, or you can Google me, because you'll find all my details in Google. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I have loved it. And Amy, thank you for your time and your energy and your amazing conversation. And it's been so great. And I'm super, super excited that we've had this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
I know you've been blown away with the amazing value here today. Now go out and inspire the planet. And be sure to send us a message when you're ready to come talk about it on Straight Out of Savannah, Talking with Tammi.